What's up, guys? It's your boy King Kuma, back at it again with another reaction video. I promise this channel's not always going to be reactions, but for a little while until I get a better setup, we're just doing reaction videos. Today, we're watching a daily dose of football. If you guys didn't know, I'm a huge football fan. My parents are originally from Uruguay. I was born here in the States, but, you know, like, having soccer in my blood, you know, like, or soccer, football, triggering. Some people said soccer, they're like, oh my god, what did you just say? Having football, you know, in my blood, like my dad growing up watching football with him, watching Uruguay play, you know. This guy right here, how Forlan went from a flop to World Cup legend in 1 year. Forlan, for me, is my favorite player of all time, especially watching him in that 2010 World Cup run. Well, let's, you know, like I said, we're not only going to be doing music videos, so let's get right into it. Oh, and I changed the setup, so now the video is going to be on the left-hand screen, and then I'm going to be right here, because you guys want to see my beautiful face, I know.
When Mourinho arrived at United,
and my voice is a little weird because I am sick, so yeah, it is what it is.
in 2016,
Whoa, what is this? Should we keep the captions on? I'm gonna, hold up. Okay, cool. We'll keep the captions on. Sorry, let's go back. For now, if I have to say anything, I'll pause the video.
when Mourinho arrived at United in 2016, he was so confused as to why the fans kept singing Diego, 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 that he literally had to ask his staff who it was. The man was Diego Forlan.
The GOAT. Look at him. Man, what a GOAT, bro. Diego Forlan. And Mourinho, bro. Mourinho, a GOAT manager. I mean, I'm a Liverpool fan, so I should be saying fuck Mourinho, but I recognize real, you know. But as a Liverpool fan, fuck United.
The way they were singing, you would think he was a legend at the club, but in reality, his time at United was awful. But some footballers just have that X factor. For some reason, the fans love them no matter what, which...
Very, very true. His time at United was awful. He was not good at United at all. I mean, his Villarreal and Atletico Madrid days were really good, but his time at United was god awful. But I don't know, that happens to a lot of Spanish players, and I'm pretty sure they gave him the number 7, and I don't know, that number 7 after Cristiano, it's been cursed, so I don't know.
Is especially ironic, given that Forlan didn't even like football growing up. He was inches away from never touching a football, and after his catastrophic time with United, he could have easily been forgotten, but he pushed through, and it was only at the age of 30 that he fully recovered from his time there, and surprisingly, he blew up, taking award after award and becoming a cult hero like there have only been a few. This was easily one of the most requested videos in the history of the channel. I hope you enjoy it.
I'm not surprised. I think this video is like a year old, so I'm kind of late. But, you know, we're reacting together. Forlan is like one of those guys that, like, after watching him in the 2010 World Cup, he became like a household name because the goals and the numbers that he put up in that World Cup, the dude was phenomenal. Like, I don't know, that's how I fell in love watching him play. Like, it's one of the reasons why I got really into football, was watching him.
Let's go. The start of Forlan's life was as odd as it gets. His father, his uncle, and even his grandpa were all footballers, and they were no amateurs. They were full-blown Uruguayan internationals, and both his father and his grandpa managed to win the Copa America.
Whoa,
Forlan was born to be a footballer, but to the distaste of everyone, he preferred tennis. His family tried everything on his...
Tennis? Man, this guy had football in his blood, bro, and he was like, nah, brother. Tennis. Let me tell you something, bro. Tennis is cool. I tried to play tennis in high school. That shit was bad. I just don't have that hand-eye coordination. My dumbass was like, swinging that shit around like a lightsaber, dude.
His birthday, his dad even gifted him a shirt Pelé had given him after a match, but all Forlan did was that he nearly ripped it trying to get it on, which meant he never saw it again. For all they knew, there was nothing that could take Forlan out of the tennis court, but then a tragedy changed everything. His older sister was returning from a party when her car spun off and hit a palm tree. Her boyfriend died on the scene, and she was left completely paralyzed, stuck in intensive care for 5 months. Despite all the football royalty in the family, Uruguayan football wasn't exactly paying a fortune in the 60s, so once the medical bills...
Bro, I feel like Uruguayan football nowadays, unless you're part of like the 2 big clubs, Peñarol and Nacional, you're probably not making that much money. Because, I mean, Uruguay, you gotta think, Uruguay's probably like one of the smallest countries in the world. I think it's like in the top 10. I might be wrong, but they're pretty small. I think their population of like 3.5 million. Where I live now in the States has more people in it than Uruguay. I mean, that tells you something. And that's a state compared to a whole country.
Began piling up. They began crying out for help. They were $250,000 in debt when an old friend of his dad donated some of the money and helped raise the rest. His name was Diego Maradona.
Hey, yo, bro, what is this?
Here's one thing you need to do before buying anything online. Don't spend another dime on Amazon until you watch this first.
Sorry, guys. That's gonna get edited, most likely. Diego Maradona, let's go back real quick.
They were $250,000 in debt when an old friend of his dad donated some of the money and helped raise the rest. His name was Diego Maradona. Seeing money talk like that changed Forlan.
I mean, if you guys don't know who Diego Maradona is, bro, one of the greatest Argentinian footballers of all time. I mean, the dude pretty much single-handedly won a World Cup for Argentina. He probably saw that money from Diego Forlan, and Forlan was like, bro, I need money like that.
His sister is told the first thing he said to all of that was, I'm gonna become a world-famous footballer and make enough money to get you all the best doctors in the world. And though he clearly wasn't lying, being already 12, he had some serious catching up to do, which might explain why he would become such a late bloomer. Despite the circumstances, hearing that he wanted to follow football was music to everyone's ears, and so they moved mountains trying to make it all easier for him. And after 4 years playing at the Danubio, now 16 years old, they got him a trial at Nancy in France, which he clearly didn't deserve at that point, meaning it went horribly wrong, and after a few months he was already being sent back. Still,
I think that's the dangerous part of having like a legacy in football. Like, I'm trying to think of like players who suffered from like their dads being big footballers, or like in other aspects it's like wrestling. So like I'm a wrestling fan too. You get like second and third generation wrestlers, and it's like a lot of the times like you look at them and you're like, oh, they're gonna be just as good as their dad. They're gonna be just as good as their grandpa. So like I feel like that must suck to have like that heavy burden on your shoulder, to being like you have to be just as good or better, you know? Like compares. That's why I hate comparisons, but they do it all the time in sports. Like, for example, like Darwin Nunez going to Liverpool, everybody thought he was going to be just like Luis Suarez, like he was going to bang out a bunch of goals, but he had a really bad first season, and now he's picking up the pace. But it's like people should just stop making comparisons, or like the Messi comparison. Everybody's like, oh, that new Argentinian kid, he's going to be like Messi 2.0, and then he sucks.
He didn't let the fact that he had just blown his head start put him down. He left Uruguay once again and joined Independiente's academy in Argentina, the same team his grandpa had played for more than half a century before him. And this time around, it all went well. At 18, he got his first match for the main team. At 19, he started putting some numbers on the board. And at 20, fittingly enough, he was already scoring 20 goals a season, despite Independiente going through such a rough patch that he finished 2 points off of the bottom of the table at one point. Regardless, not only was Forlan their top scorer by a mile, he was putting on man-of-the-match performances week in, week out. He was more than a goal scorer. Some didn't even see him as a striker at all. He was something else, one of the first prototypes of the modern striker. And after
Very true. when I looked at Forlan, he was like a cam striker because he could do things like a cam, like pass the ball, you know, get like assists, but then he could do some shit that like strikers would do. So he was just kind of like that. He was that hybrid. I would call him like a hybrid number 9, number 10.
Starting his season with a hat-trick against Vélez Sarsfield and 10 more goals in the next 3 months, they say it was Maradona who alerted his contacts in Europe, and once again, the cards were on the table. And though for long it seemed Middlesbrough would be the one to be dealt, they would be paying the 11 million euros of his transfer fee in installments, which allowed Sir Alex Ferguson to swoop in with a money bag, offering to pay that same amount immediately. And in a blink of an eye, Forlan was no longer a Diablo Rojo, he was now a Red Devil. But maybe they should have kept in mind that he was still only 22 and had played less than 100 matches so far, because things didn't go well. Not well at all. Forlan seemed far too eager to make it.
He looked so nervous here. You could tell, like, probably this kind of culture in England was like not something he really was like too keen on. Like, you just tell that he was like nervous. Look at his face.
Wasn't just giving it his all, he was giving it far too much, charging down the pitch in the most chaotic of fashions. Every pass seemed to go astray, every shot was a disaster. It almost
sounds like another Uruguayan player in the Prem right now. The king of chaos, Darwin Nunez.
Seemed supernatural, and he quickly became the Premier League's laughingstock. But by the next season, after 26 matches without a single goal and 9 months of jokes, people hissed off. Everyone could see how hard he was trying. Solskjaer even said he had never seen anyone train so hard, and the fans felt for him. They all wanted him to score. After all, it clearly wasn't just his fault. Throughout those 9 months, he was afforded 30 minutes of game time, only 7 times. At the end of the day, United were stacked. Solskjaer was still banging in goals. Van Nistelrooy was at the peak of his powers, and while Forlan...
See, that's one thing I don't like. Is like when these like younger guys go into these big teams, they don't. A lot of the times, unless that role is needed, they're never used. Or unless they're like a superstar like Mbappe or Holland. This happens a lot. Like, there's a player in Uruguay, his name is Palistri. He plays at United right now. But, dude, I think he's maybe come off the bench like 6 times in the last like 2 years. Like, the dude, and he's a phenomenal player for the international team. And they loaned him out to Deporto in Spain, I think. And he did really good numbers out there. It's just, for whatever reason, I mean, United has stacked wingers, so, and he plays on the wing. I just don't get that. Like, if you're going to buy a player and not use him, at least loan him out to a club that's going to use him, you know, so he can get some experience. Him sitting on the bench isn't going to help you.
Preferred to play with a partner. Van Nistelrooy was never going to share the limelight with him. That just wasn't his style. However, David Beckham did not have a problem with that, and on a fateful night playing against Maccabi Haifa, he gifted Forlan with a chance to take a penalty. The whole stadium gasped for a second. If he somehow missed even this, surely he had to be under a curse. Commentator Peter Drury put it better than anyone else. Please, please, anyone with an ounce of humanity, say please on his behalf. And then he scored. The man English media referred to as Diego Forlorn finally had a reason to smile. But still, 7 more appearances went by without a goal, and only then did he finally manage to experience a period of relative good form, scoring in 2 consecutive Premier League matches with a game winner in the 85th minute, changing football forever. Forlan, completely euphoric, took off his shirt celebrating and then struggled so much with putting it back on. Though, quick side note, Nike's jerseys had some undershirt technology gimmick that year that made it very hard to put them on. Regardless, as I was saying, the game was restarted.
Man was a little too sweaty. He was trying to put that thing on. He was like, man, this is sticky, dude.
Then Forlan ended up iconically running around the pitch with his shirt off, even slide tackling an opponent before someone from the bench helped him out with his whole thing. But what makes this even more hilarious and historical, as I said before, is that many believe this was the moment that led FIFA to finally ban players from taking off their shirts, which every single fan wishes they hadn't done. But it is what it is. Regardless, things kept improving for a while. 2 matches later came 2 assists versus Newcastle, and right after that, Forlan's best ever performance in a United shirt, scoring twice in a 2-1 win over Liverpool, taking advantage of a massive error.
Why you gotta do my team like this, dog?
By Dudek, and then scoring the winner with a thunderbolt. The shirt came off for the 4th time, and suddenly the fans were singing his name. Could it be that Forlan had overcome his struggles? Well, he did score 4 in the next 9, including a 90th minute winner against Chelsea, despite still not getting many minutes, which meant he was averaging 1 goal or assist every 96 minutes since this period of good form started. But despite this, then it just happened all over again. 9 months without scoring, all the way into the following season, even getting the worst miss of his career against Juventus before randomly getting 7 goals in 9 matches and then disappearing again. Could this all be any more?
This guy, this is what Darwin's been watching too much Forlan, the king of chaos, dude. Like this guy was the original Darwin. Both you're white. I don't know what it is. It's like these guys, don't give him simple, and it's probably like he was missing like sitters too, like Darwin. But then he'll bang out like one from like 25 yards out. It's like, what the hell?
Frustrating. Well, it certainly became more frustrating for Forlan, who in his final appearance for United failed to follow Sir Alex's advice to change his studs before coming in and ended up slipping and missing the chance that could have given United the draw. So, with Sir Alex furious and an 18-year-old Rooney coming in, Forlan took the axe and was cut from the squad. In the end, he was sold to the highest bidder. First, it seemed he could be going to Bilbao, who despite their Basque players-only rule...
Really? I was about to say that. He beat me to it.
Seemed he could be going to Bilbao, who despite their Basque players-only rule, could take in Forlan as his grandma was actually from there. But then, he ended up joining Villarreal instead for just 3.2 million euros, 4 times less than United had paid for him. With such a disappointing fee next to his name, moving to a city with a population smaller than Old Trafford's capacity, no one could have guessed that now 26-year-old Forlan would become one of the greatest late bloomers the game has ever seen. Joining forces with the talented Juan Roman Riquelme, the South American duo took a Villa...
Clap. What a duo, bro. Those two together, it was like the dynamic duo for sure.
Real team that had been promoted only 4 years earlier and brought them to a whole new level. It was like watching Rocky Balboa go up the steps and put his fist in the air. This was his redemption plot. Still, it wasn't immediate. By December, he had only scored 4 goals, Villarreal were 14th, and there was reason to worry. Just imagine, Samuel Eto'o was already at the top of the goal scorers table, virtually unreachable with 12 goals. Forlan even began getting dropped to the bench, but then 13 goals in 15 matches, he had once again popped off midway through the season, and Eto'o was suddenly only 3 goals in front. But would Forlan disappear again? Not this time, as Villarreal needed him the most. He finished the season with 5 goals in his last 2 matches, including a hat-trick at the Camp Nou, to tie the match to 3 goals after having already gotten a brace against him in January, beating all the odds, taking over Samuel Eto'o, winning the league's top scorer award, taking Villarreal to the Champions League, winning the European Golden Boot and being nominated to the Ballon d'Or. Forlan had completely changed the path of his career in a matter of months. When asked how he managed to do that, he answered, "In Spain, I get 90 minutes to play, then 5 days of rest, and we go again. In England, with 10 to 15 minutes a match and without the backing of the coach, how was I supposed to play?"
This is very true. This is kind of like what I brought up similarly with Polistri. It's like sometimes I feel like these people buy these players and expect like them to be like gods, and then they get treated like shit. No offense to Sir Alex Ferguson, but it seems like his time at United just nobody really wanted him there. Maybe he was like a fan favorite, but I bet you the coaching staff didn't want him there.
Regardless, after a season where Villarreal went through major changes, dropping to 7th place in the league with Forlan struggling to score, the next year he impressed once more, totaling 20 league goals again, which was made even more impressive by his late season heroics, with 13 goals in the last 12 matches of the season, taking Villarreal to more wins over that 2-month span than they had managed all season, and getting them up to a 5th place finish and qualification to the UEFA Cup. Now back to his best. Once Fernando Torres left Atletico, the answer was obvious. Who better to partner with Kun Agüero than another matador from Independiente? And so, Forlan joined them for 21 million and once again completely changed the path of the club. At that point, it had been 7 years since Atletico had been promoted from the second tier, and so far they had only managed to sneak into the top 10 twice. But then, Forlan arrived and he fit in like a glove. 11 goals in 16 matches in the first few months, and by the end of the year, he had partnered with Agüero for a total of 55 goals, launching Atletico straight into the Champions League for only the second time in 30 years, with Forlan's last goal of the season being the difference maker. Having a season like this at 30 years of age was already a surprise, but the next year, he blew every pre-established idea anyone had about him out of the water. At 31 years of age, he had by far his most prolific season ever, playing well from the get-go, but then completely overshadowing Agüero by the time February came around, first with 7 goals in 6 matches, scoring against both Real and Barcelona, and then finishing the season with 12 goals in 8 matches, being solely responsible for Atletico's Champions League qualification and doubling his goal tally from the previous year, now totaling an incredible 32 league goals.
Can we go back? Can we go back to that golazo, dude? Look at this man, bro. This guy a menace, bro. Look at this.
Qualification and doubling his goal tally from the previous year, now totaling an incredible 32 league goals and winning the European Golden Boot a second time. Only 7 players had ever managed to do that in history back then, and nobody had ever done it in La Liga. Still, he lacked 2 things in his career: some titles, after all he had barely won anything since his United days where he barely contributed, and above all, he needed to achieve glory with Uruguay, which was even more mandatory considering his family's legacy, and believe it or not, despite his age, over the next 2 years he would get all of that. First came the titles with Atletico. Despite his goals tally dropping substantially, Forlan went on to dominate the Europa League.
Prepare to save big during
come
Cyber
on,
Week at
bro.
Living Spaces, where you'll find our best deals in-store and online at Living Spaces.
Scoring a 90th minute winning goal against Galatasaray, as well as a decisive away goal against Valencia, before meeting his old nemesis Liverpool and scoring the only home goal, as well as a winning goal away in extra time, before doing that all over again in the final, scoring
Come on, Forlan, why are you gonna do Liverpool like this, dog?
the first goal, but also the decisive second in extra time, taking down Fulham and taking off his shirt for all time's sake. It was an unbelievable run, but it still wasn't even close to his best moment in 2010. Over summer, he would join Uruguay and he would once again dominate, taking advantage of the infamous Javolani and its crazy movements to score screamer after screamer and put up one of the all-time greatest World Cup performances. Despite having reached the age of 32 with only 1 World Cup goal, he started by scoring 2 in 3 group stage matches before assisting against South Korea and then going on a rampage, scoring their only goal in that famous match against Ghana, and then 1 more to tie the semi-final against the Netherlands, only to go down.
We know about that famous match. Hey, so Suarez is not welcome there, bro. They're ready to go beat his ass, bro.
To the 3rd place match, scoring the goal of the tournament, but still somehow going home without a medal. But at least he did get another kind of silverware, the award for best player in the tournament. After all, he had managed to finish tied for top goal scorer, despite 4 of his 5 goals being either volleys, free kicks, or scored from long range. And even more impressively, by the end of the year, he earned the 5th place finish at the Ballon d'Or. But the craziest thing is that somehow he still wasn't done. Feels like I've said this a million times now. He is a late bloomer indeed, huh? Despite beating Inter to the European Super Cup, Forlan went on to have a horrible season, but as it seemed the years were catching up to him, even going 5 Copa America matches without a goal, he surprised everyone by scoring twice in the final, becoming Uruguay's all-time top scorer and getting himself the gold medal he had been fighting for. Finally, he could join his dad and grandpa.
This guy, Tavares, was a good coach back then. And then like in 2018, it just went to shit, dude. Like, I'll always respect the guy, one of Uruguay's best coaches, but the guy, like, I don't know, I feel like towards the end, he just stopped giving a fuck about Uruguay. Like, his heart wasn't in it anymore, and like, we just started losing and losing. Like, the 2018 World Cup, and then I think it was that Copa America afterwards, and it was just horrible, dude.
As South American champions. And finally, it seemed Forlan allowed himself to slow down, now close to 34 years of age, being pushed out of Atletico with the arrival of Falcao after some tension had built up between him and the club, and joining Inter where he would not be the happiest of men, claiming he was being played out of position and leaving the club after only 2 goals in 22 matches. Then joining Internacional in Brazil, his father's former team, and being the top scorer as they won the Gaúcho Championship before moving 4 times in 5 years, playing in Japan, in his childhood team Peñarol, as well as India and Hong Kong, only announcing his retirement in 2019.
Yeah, he went everywhere. Oh yeah, I forgot that he played longer than that. I thought he retired younger, for whatever reason. But yeah, I forgot that he went to Hong Kong and all those other places. But yeah,
at 41 years of age.
But yeah, guys.
When Mourinho
Go check out Daily Dose of Football, man. You didn't see that. I was subscribed, bro, even with the bell with notifications. This video was cool. There were some things that I didn't even know, and I'm Uruguayan, and like, there's just like, that was cool. Like, a lot of cool information and not a very long video. I hope you guys liked it. It's been your boy King Kuma signing out.